Hey everybody, I'm Sean Duhamel. This is the Mass Retirees Weekly Update for Friday, February 4th. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in again this week. Now I've got some great news to report to all of you on some legislative activity happening here in Boston on Beacon Hill. But before I do that, let me first remind everyone that our next members-only Teletown Hall event will take place a week from today on Friday, February 11th at 1 p.m. Once again, there are two ways for our members to join with us in this meeting, which for next week will focus primarily on healthcare, but we are going to talk a little bit about the legislative news that I have for you today, as well as, of course, answer your questions. But there are two ways for you to participate. One is by receiving the automated phone call from me at the time of the event, so at 1 o'clock next Friday. If we have your telephone number on file here at Mass Retirees, you will receive an automated call. All you need to do is pick up the phone, stay on the line, and you're going to be automatically connected to the meeting at no cost to you. The second way for you to participate is by dialing yourself the toll-free number that's contained in the Mass Retirees newsletter, The Voice. It's also contained in this week's, and it will be in next week's, email message that comes out to all of you on Fridays. And the third way you can find the telephone number is that if you've renewed your membership dues with us for 2022, that telephone number is contained on the back of your membership card. It has our toll-free hotline phone number, the Teletown Hall toll-free number, and the home telephone numbers of myself and the rest of our senior staff and our association president, Frank Valeri. We want to be as accessible to you as possible. That means getting this information out to you in a timely fashion, being available if you have questions or concerns or problems. That's what those phone numbers are for. So as I said at the outset, I've got some really exciting news to report. This past Wednesday was the deadline for legislative activity on Beacon Hill. It's known as Joint Rule 10 Day. And for those of you who follow activity in the State House on Beacon Hill, you know that Joint Rule 10 historically is a big deal. It is a legislative rule that applies to both the House and the Senate that requires the committee that legislation is first assigned to. So in our case, most of our bills are initially assigned to the Joint Committee on Public Service, which has oversight over all public retirement and health insurance benefits. So that is the key committee for us. That committee is chaired by State Senator Mike Brady and State Representative Ken Gordon. Senator Brady comes from the city of Brockton, and Representative Gordon comes from and represents the town of Bedford. So they are the co-chairmen of the committee. On Wednesday of this week, the committee favorably released 7 Mass Retirees sponsored pieces of legislation. Of those bills, and I'm not going to get into every detail today, the full details of our entire legislative package will be contained in the March Voice, which also went to press yesterday, as a matter of fact, and you will be receiving that in your mailbox sometime in the middle of February. So just in the next probably 2.5 weeks, you'll receive the newsletter. But in any event, 7 bills came out of the Public Service Committee favorably on Wednesday. Of the utmost importance, of course, is our COLA legislation. As we have been reporting for many months, and as I covered in last week's video, we are making every attempt to improve the cost of living adjustment here in Massachusetts, both at the state level for state and teacher retirees, as well as working with our local retirees and our local retirement board members to make improvements at the same time to local COLA benefits. In order to do so, there are a couple of pieces of legislation that we have proposed for the current session. One applies to increasing the COLA base for state and teacher retirees. And as we've been reporting, what we are asking for is a modest increase in the base from the current $13,000 to a new level of $16,000 for state and teacher retirees. At the same time, we have also proposed legislation creating a new COLA benefit for long-term public retirees. That legislation we have referred to as either the senior COLA or the enhanced COLA, and it would apply to those of you who have been retired for at least 15 years, who were career public servants, so you had at least 20 years or more of credible service, and you're receiving a pension that's either at or below the average benefit for your retirement system. So right now, state retirees, the average state pension benefit is somewhere between $37,000 and $38,000 a year. For teachers, it's about $10,000 more, so 47 to 48 in that range. And at the local level, depending on the city or town, it is less than 37. The smaller towns, it tends to be dramatically less than 37. So what we are asking for is that this special legislation, which would create a benefit that would be paid on top of the traditional COLA. So you still receive the traditional COLA like everybody else, but if you fit that certain criteria, you would get an added increase. If you had been retired between 15 and 20 years and you met that demographic, you would receive an extra $100 a month. And if you had been retired for 20 or more years, an extra $100 per year. I misspoke. I wish it was $100 per month, but $100 per year. If you had been retired for 20 or more years, you would receive an extra $200 per year. Again, that would be paid on top of the traditional COLA. So those two pieces of legislation are very important to us for a couple of reasons. One, we believe that they're very necessary. Secondly, in order to improve the COLA base at the state and teacher level, that most likely needs to take place as part of the annual state budget. And that process right now is underway on Beacon Hill. As we reported last week, Governor Baker has filed his FY23 budget proposal. That legislation is now before the House of Representatives, the House Ways and Means Committee that is chaired by State Representative Aaron Michowitz. He is from the north end of Boston. They are now working on the House's version of the budget. That proposal will be released sometime by the middle of April, with debate in the House expected to come in late April. The Senate will then follow suit during the month of May, and throughout June and into early July will be the conference committee process, where the differences between the two different versions will be worked out before a final budget is sent to Governor Baker. So it's very important for us to include the COLA legislation as part of that debate. Now, above and beyond all of that, of course, is our hope that the COLA payment, the percentage that's paid, will reflect the true consumer price index for 2022, which of course is 5.9%. While indications are that inflation across the country is starting to level off, and I certainly hope that that is the case, we have seen a great deal of price increase, particularly here in Massachusetts and in the Northeast, where rents and everything else in life is spiking. The cost of home heating oil and natural gas is up. Every time you go to the supermarket, all of us are feeling the pinch. So we are very hopeful that we can get a little extra benefit for retired public employees this year to help our members out during this time of need. And I don't think anyone can really dispute that. But we're very thankful for the action of the Public Service Committee. Again, this week we had 7 bills come out. Last fall, we had an additional 3 pieces of legislation. So of our total 17 bill legislative package, 10 of the 17 bills have been reported out favorably by various committees and are advancing through the legislative process. So we're very thankful for that. I want to say once again, thank you to Senator Mike Brady and State Representative Ken Gordon for your support of public retirees. Both of you have maintained an open door policy with our association. I also want to thank our legislative chairman, Tom Bonarigo, and our legislative liaison, Nancy McGovern, for their day-to-day work, particularly with Nancy, of working with the committee staff, making sure that they had all the information that they needed and that the members of the committee needed in order to make these decisions in a timely manner and for our legislation to be able to move forward. It's a very complicated process at times. There are a lot of moving parts. Many of the bills that we file are complicated pieces of legislation or very expensive pieces of legislation. That's certainly true when it comes to the COLA and those types of proposals. However, we know how important this is. Every single bill we file is a legitimate proposal that we believe is affordable. And when we come to the table and when Tom and Nancy are working with the legislators and their staff, it's really important that we're able to demonstrate the need that exists and how our pension systems or the state budget can accommodate and pay for some of these requests. So again, this is a big step forward. We're not done yet. The legislative session runs through the end of July this year. We have a lot of work to do, but the action taken by Public Service this week was a huge step forward, and we're very hopeful of what's to come in the future. I hope you can join us next Friday for our Teletown Hall event. But with that, I'm going to sign off for today. Thank you again for your support, and we'll talk to you again very soon.